All of us are unhappy, at least some of the time, but sometimes we feel unhappy in our bones. We might feel lost or disappointed or even frustrated with ourselves. This is where the teachings of Aristotle can be really helpful for us because he came up with a simple framework for achieving happiness. And not just like fleeting, have a nice day happiness, but real, long-lasting fulfillment. So in this video, I want to share with you Aristotle's blueprint for living a happy life. We'll go through his framework. We'll talk about the challenges we might encounter when trying to implement his plan, and we'll discuss some of the solutions to those challenges. The nice thing about Aristotle, though, is a lot of his teachings are really pretty straightforward. For instance, one of his most famous arguments about how to achieve happiness concerns our relationship to money, how we should spend it, and when we should share it. Think about this. It makes you feel good to spend money on a friend, to buy them a cup of coffee, to pick up the check at dinner, but it probably doesn't make you feel good when you have a friend who's taking advantage of you when you are always the one who's paying for the taxis and the pizza. Now, for Aristotle, it's very clear why one kind of generosity makes you happy and the other kind does not. And it has to do with this concept that has come to be known as the golden mean. Whenever we spend money, whenever we do almost anything, really, Aristotle says we ought to be aiming for this golden mean. It's kind of like the midpoint between two extremes. So when we're sharing money with our friends, when we're being generous in the right way, with the right people, in the right amount, Aristotle says we're hitting our target. We're doing something good, and it makes us happy. But if we're always giving away our money, if we're giving away too much of our money, if we're overly generous or even wasteful, we're not going to be happy. But here's something interesting. Aristotle says also your friend who never pays for anything, who's a cheapskate and never pays for dinner, he isn't happy either. Being cheap and never spending money on anything is the other extreme. And Aristotle says this will make you unhappy too. Aristotle wants us to avoid these extremes of too much and too little. And he says it doesn't just apply to saving and spending money. This applies to almost everything we do as human beings. We can be afraid, for instance, or be confident, or have appetites, or get angry, or feel pity, and in general, have pleasure or pain, both too much and too little, and in both ways, not well. Think about the things in life that bring you pleasure. We take pleasure in all kinds of things. Football, Fortnite, napping, dancing, hiking, videos of kids falling down, Wes Anderson movies, making out, potato chips, barbecue potato chips, ketchup potato chips, spicy dill pickle potato chips. You ever try those? Now, if we want to be happy, Aristotle says, just like with the money spending thing, we've got to apply this golden mean framework to our pleasure-seeking activities. We all know this. If I spend all day every day playing Fortnite, I'm not going to be happy. If you become addicted to watching Wes Anderson movies, that would be a very weird addiction, but it could ruin your life. Of course, we want to enjoy these things. They are part of what makes us happy, but we want to enjoy them in the right way, at the right time, for the right amount of time. And this seems very simple. You might even think this is easy. This seems so easy, but it's not easy. Look at the size of this bag of potato chips I bought. Was this a smart thing for me to purchase? Is this the right amount of potato chips? I don't even plan to share this with anybody. This is just for me. I've read Aristotle a lot of times for many years. I understand the mean, and yet I still struggle to hit my target. Why is that so difficult? Here we encounter one of the big challenges with Aristotle's happiness blueprint. It turns out it is hard work to be excellent. So Aristotle, I'm really excited to be happy. Yes, I know. And all you have to do is find the mean. I know it sounds so simple. I'm just curious though, how do we find the mean? You want to avoid extremes. We can have an excess or a deficiency of almost anything. We can work too hard or not enough. You can care about money too much or not enough. So avoid those extremes. You want to do things in the right way, in the right amount. Oh, for sure. But I guess I mean, how do I find the mean in my particular case? Because some nights I need to work late, but then other times I feel overworked. And there are some days when I want to treat myself. but then other days I think I should be saving my money. And I've also noticed that different people have different needs and preferences than I do. That's true. People are different in this way. An Olympic wrestler needs to eat more than a small child. Weird example, but exactly right. So how do I figure out what is the right amount of an activity for me? Like, how much should I work? How much should I rest? How many books should I be reading? How do I figure this out in my day-to-day life? Well, I'm going to head out. Aristotle doesn't give us specific advice on how much dessert we should eat or how much money we should give it to charity. And there are a couple reasons for that. The first reason is because people are different. There's some variation between human beings. You might not care if you ever eat a potato chip again, while to me, a life without potato chips, it sounds like torture. So I need some potato chips in my life. You might not need any. Maybe you like cheesecake or fancy coffees. Another reason it's hard to hit the mean is because human life is fluid. We change over time. How much sleep do you need? If you've just had surgery, you need a lot of sleep. You need to rest and recover. Whereas if you're trying to get a big promotion, or maybe if you've got a new baby at home, you would choose to have less sleep so that you can accomplish the things you need to accomplish. So the mean is different for different people, and the mean moves throughout our lives. So on the day-to-day, how do we hit our target? How do we figure out what we're supposed to do, the right thing to do in order to be happy? Aristotle provides us with two really helpful pieces of advice. The first one is prudence. You've heard about prudence, right? It's not really a virtue we celebrate anymore, but for Aristotle, it's a really fundamental concept. We might also call prudence practical wisdom. It's a kind of wisdom associated with human life. It's not like theoretical wisdom or abstract wisdom. It's about wisdom about living. Aristotle associates prudence with the management of households or government. This is the kind of wisdom you use to govern things, including to govern yourself. And for Aristotle, prudence is a kind of knowledge that you develop through experience. You learn through your own experiences what you need out of life, what things you need in order to be happy. If you think about it, you've probably learned lessons like this in your life. You have a sense of certain jobs that you've tried that you know are not a good fit for you, or certain kinds of relationships that you know will not make you happy. And so you stay away from those jobs and those relationships. This is prudence. And Aristotle says we struggle with prudence, especially when we are young, because we don't have a lot of experience. And so we make a ton of mistakes. But prudence is not only knowledge of particulars, of subjective experience. It also requires some understanding of universals, of objective standards. You need some understanding of what the best possible human life looks like. What does the ideal human life look like? And once you have that pattern of the ideal life, you can begin to model yourself after that pattern with an understanding of your own particular situation and circumstances. So finding the mean requires this combination of understanding what the best possible human life looks like, and also what is possible for you as an individual. Now, the other piece of advice that Aristotle gives us, the other thing that helps us find the mean, is good habits. See, even when we know what the mean is intellectually, we can still struggle to hit our target. Sometimes, for example, our love of pleasure overwhelms us and we struggle to moderate our behavior. This is my problem with potato chips. I know I shouldn't eat that many potato chips. I'm sure Keanu Reeves does not eat that many potato chips. Look at this guy. I know Kung Fu. He knows Kung Fu. But Aristotle says if we can train ourselves over time to get closer to the mean, and to hit our target more reliably again and again, over and over, it will get easier over time. Can I tell you guys a story? I've been making videos like this for months now. I started this series at the beginning of the summer called The Summer of Goodness, where I make videos about moral philosophers or books about morality. And as part of this series, I've been running on a treadmill. What's the connection? I don't know. I think I really just told you about the treadmill to help keep myself motivated, because I made this New Year's resolution that I was going to run or walk 300 kilometers on the treadmill in 2025. Seemed like an achievable goal at the time, but it hasn't always been easy. You know why? Because I deep down, I don't really like to run. I'm not a running guy. I want to be on the couch eating fast food and watching football. But I have this idea that a good human life includes a healthy body, so I should at least be approaching that goal. But the thing is, it's kind of proved the habit thesis. The more I run, the easier it gets to run. I can run farther. I can run faster. The habit thing is kind of real. Let's see, by the end of August, we'll be 2/3 of the way through the year. So I really wanted to get to 200 kilometers because then we'd be 2/3 of the way through the running challenge. And as I film this, it's August 23rd and I'm at 183 kilometers. I got to finish this challenge before I post the video, don't I? It's important to understand that when Aristotle talks about happiness, he's not just talking about being cheerful, being in a good mood. The word he used in ancient Greek was eudaimonia, which is closer to an idea like fulfillment. And truthfully, for Aristotle, real happiness is not just about self-control, like managing your diet or exercising. It's about human excellence. As the scholar J.A. Ackrell describes it, eudaimonia is the most desirable sort of life. The life that contains all intrinsically worthwhile activities. So for Aristotle, the activities you most need to concern yourself with, it's not really just working out and potato chip eating. The most worthwhile activities are things like friendship and politics and study. And performing these activities requires you to cultivate certain virtues like courage and temperance and wisdom. And so a life of happiness for Aristotle isn't always easy. It isn't like a life free of struggle. Sometimes real happiness, long-lasting happiness, requires that you do hard things. And really the best gauge for whether or not you are living well, doing the right thing, whether or not you are hitting the mean consistently, even as you change, even as the circumstances in the world change. The best measure is whether or not you are happy. Are you content and fulfilled? And I don't mean, are you in a good mood every day? No one is in a good mood every day. Things can be very bad. But at a fundamental bedrock level, are you happy? That kind of happiness, Aristotle suggests, is self-evident proof that you are living well, living correctly. Aristotle thinks if you consistently aim at the mean in your actions and your decisions over and over again, habitually, throughout your life, this is the recipe for happiness. You will feel content and fulfilled. And that's how you'll know you've hit your target. I hope you've enjoyed the Summer of Goodness. I've enjoyed sharing all these books with you. If you liked this video, you should watch that video. I will see you there, and I'll talk to you soon.